My name is Justin Ziegler, and I'm an injury attorney with the law firm of JZ Helps, which is an injury law firm serving the entire state of Florida. I represent people who are injured when someone else is at fault. Today I'm going to talk about tibia and fibula injury cases, particularly those where someone else's carelessness caused your tibia or fibula fracture. First thing we're going to look at is, where is the tibia? The tibia is the larger of the two bones in your lower leg. As you can see, it's right there. Another image of the tibia is right there. This article assumes that someone else's carelessness caused your tibia fracture or fibula fracture. It also assumes, unless I say otherwise, that you had no fault in the accident, although you still may be able to recover even if you are partially at fault. This article does not apply when your only case is just a workers' compensation case. However, you may be injured during work and have a claim against someone other than your employer, where this article would apply for. All things equal, it's easier to get pain and suffering money in a tibia fracture case than many other types of injuries. And again, I'm referring to cases in Florida where someone else's carelessness caused your injury. In particular, it's easier to get money for pain and suffering in a car accident because insurance adjusters, or the law in Florida, says you need a permanent injury in most car accident cases in Florida in order to get money for pain and suffering. Many insurance adjusters will accept, at least for purposes of settlement, that a tibia fracture is a permanent injury. There is an increased chance that the insurance company for the careless party or your own uninsured motorist insurer will pay you the $10,000, $20,000, or $25,000 if those are the limits for your tibia fracture. Example, you're in a car accident, someone else's carelessness caused your injury, caused your tibia fracture, the other person only has $10,000 of liability insurance. There's extremely high likelihood that they would pay you the $10,000 limits. The same being true if the other side had $20,000 or $25,000 limits. It's because a tibia fracture can be a significant injury. If the liable driver who's at fault has no insurance, you may get zero. The starting point that I use for the pain and suffering component of a tibia fracture case in Florida is $25,000 to $40,000. Keep in mind, you add your pain and suffering component to out-of-pocket medical bills plus lost wages. That gives you the full value of the case. After you get the full value, you discount it for your fault, if any, and for other things as well. Once you have surgery in a tibia or fibula fracture case, that drives up the settlement value significantly. Why? Surgery is associated with medical costs, increased pain and suffering, risks, delayed healing process, etc. The tibial plateau fracture is this piece right below your kneecap. This is your kneecap, and the tibial plateau is circled here. It is right below your kneecap. I wrote a separate article on that. I've had several settlements for tibial plateau fractures. One for $445,000. You can click on any of these links and read about them. One for $70,000, one for $33,000. The more disabled you are, as you can imagine, after a tibial fracture from an accident where someone's carelessness caused it, the higher the value. So when people ask, how much is my tibial fracture case worth? A lot of attorneys will say, I don't know until you're finished treating, because you may be left with zero impairment or disability, or you may be left with a large one. The larger the disability, the higher the full value for the pain and suffering component. If you have a limp, that increases the settlement value, at least the full value of the claim. Children can injure their tibia. This is the bottom of the tibia where it forms the ankle. The growth plate is right there. Another growth plate is there. If you injure the growth plate, a child injures the growth plate, that can be a very significant injury, which would drive up the full value of the claim. And again, if the child or if your leg is unequal in length, that drives up the full value. I represented a pedestrian who we settled his case for $325,000 after he was hit by a car. Let's take a look at what his tibia looked like. There's the fracture. It happened in what's called the shaft of the tibia, which is the middle. He was rushed to the hospital via ambulance. He had what's called an external fixator drilled inside his leg to contain the fracture. He then had that external fixator removed. And one thing you'll note, I showed you a photo of an external fixator. Anytime you have any device that you're using related to a tibia fracture, you want to take photos of it and immediately send those to the insurance adjuster so that he can see what your injury looks like, and this can serve to possibly increase the value of the pain and suffering component of your case, thus driving the full value of your case up. After he had the external fixator removed, he had a rod drilled through the tibia. It's known as an IM rod. And there happened to be, we were very fortunate, plenty of available money, insurance to get in his case. It's not always the case. Another gentleman where there was limited insurance fractured his tibia, just the middle of the tibia, and we settled for $25,000. Again, unfortunately, there was limited insurance in that case, which in Florida happens all too frequently. This is not my case, but there was a young boy who got $800,000 for the pain and suffering component of his tibia fracture case. That's a lot of money. Why did he get that? He had a height difference in his legs. Now, for a little kid to have a height difference in his legs, that's going to remain throughout the rest of his life. The full value of that pain and suffering component is worth a lot. It's going to affect his activities of daily living and just walking around. There's a 4 to 6 inch difference between the legs, which is pretty severe. That case was based on the fact that he sued the doctors for medical malpractice and failing to clean out the fracture properly. Keep in mind that in a case like that, if it's a child, involves a child, they will need court approval when the settlement amount is so high. This is also not my case. A pedestrian got $950,000 for 3 tibia and fibula surgeries. Now, the more surgeries you have, the higher that increases the full value of the pain and suffering component of the case and medical bills as well. That drives the full settlement value up, and then you look for any factors that could discount the full value of the case, such as your own fault. State Farm was the insurance company involved in that case. There's another case, not mine, where a child got $292,000 for the pain and suffering component of a tibia fracture case. She claimed that an electrical meter fell on her. Now, as often happens in many type of cases, the insurance company had a different argument. Their view of the case was what happened was not the same. They argued her brother leaped and grabbed this electric meter and it fell on him. So what do you do in a case like this? At least for settlement purposes, if there's conflicting stories, you may have to decrease the full value of the claim, factoring in the chance that a jury may believe the defendant's version of the story. And keep in mind, she had to prove, because she was injured, that the defendant at the apartment complex was careless and that their carelessness caused her tibia fracture. They also argued that they had no notice that there was a problem with the electrical meter. They said, what could we have done if we didn't know that there was anything wrong with it? We reasonably inspected the premises and there's nothing we could have done. This is a very, very small, short version into the world of tibia fractures as they relate to Florida accident cases. I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please call us at 888-594-3577. My name is Justin Ziegler. I'm an attorney with JZ Helps. If you've been injured in Florida or on a cruiser boat, I would love to represent you.